truth, and life. Here is the Brother Leon Show. You better recognize.
What's going on, listeners? This is your boy, Brother Leon, and you are tuning into another episode of the Brother Leon Show. So today, guys, we are going to have the thunder and the storm today. Let's go on in here. The one thing that I want you guys to understand and know is that God, He will bring to us phenomenal people. He will bring to us deliverers. He will bring to us people that can simplify our walk in God. And so the one thing that you have to know and understand, that as a person who is a creative, a person who is prophetic, a person who is on a spiritual journey, you have to know what the voice of God sounds like. And so today on our show, we're going to have Khadijah Tou Tou. And man, she is going to bring it today. And that's the God knows truth. She is all that. Because the one thing that I love about God is that He brings teachers into our lives. He brings coaches into our lives. And the one thing about the voice of God is this, is that it says in the Bible that you shall hear a still small voice saying, "This is the way, walk ye in it." And that's the one thing about the voice of God. And a lot of times we have gotten to the place where if it's not Elizabethan English, if it's not Ten Commandments, Charleston Heston, then it's not the voice of God. But God speaks to us. He speaks to us in everyday circumstances and situations. But a lot of times our awareness or our perception isn't there. We're not listening, even though God is speaking. So today, we're going to talk about the voice of God. So listeners, stand by as I bring you Khadijah Tou Tou.
Peace and blessings.
Hey, what's going on, Miss Tou Tou? Let me give you some applause.
Hey.
Oh my God. I am so glad because today I know by the grace of God and the goodness of God, you're going to bring the thunder today. Let me give it to you.
Yay. Let that be light. Let there be light.
So, hey, I just want to say thank you. I so appreciate you on Instagram. I'm not going to lie. And that's the God knows truth. Everything that you have been doing to uplift the community, I just want to say thank you for everything. Because we need women like you.
All praises be to God. But listen, I'm just a vessel, and I'm honored to be used.
I'm glad. I'm serious. I'm glad that you are in this time frame, because everything that I'm seeing out here that's coming out here, I'm like, Lord, what is going on? I mean, when you start looking at relationships and the mindset of some people today, I'm like, what has happened? How far have we fallen? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when I hear your voice, when I see your videos and your content and other women like yourself who are trying to uplift our community and our people and trying to get the family together, I'm like, Lord, thank you. Because it's almost like there's a drunkenness out here, but then when you hear your voice, it's the sobriety that comes with it. It's the soberness that comes with it. So I want to say thank you for listening to the voice of God, but also following the call that is on your life. I want to say thank you for that.
Hey, man, all praises be to God. I appreciate you for even reaching out and noticing, because sometimes we can do the work, and a lot of people quit because people don't acknowledge them. And one thing I always tell people, I'm like, one thing that nobody will ever beat me in is persistence. I don't care who's watching. And I know that when I work for God, it's about who He wants to watch and who He wants to bring in and who He wants to, converse with. So it's just, you put in the work and, people eventually see it and you eventually pop, but you got to keep doing what you love.
Exactly.
And I think that's important. It's like the world has lost itself in drama, but it's really the world needs to fall in love with itself.
Exactly. And I am so glad that you talk about issues like that. You talk about self-love, self-worth, and self-value, because there are so many images and so many voices out here that diminish us.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to say thank you for that. So let me ask the first question. Who are you?
Oh, who am I? I love that question. I am a vessel. I'm a vessel. I am the vessel who works for God, and God is the CEO, and I'm the employee. So I do whatever I'm commanded to do.
Okay. I just want to say thank you for that. And that's the God knows truth. Let me give you some applause.
Hey, all praises be to God. I'm gonna give the applause to God. I can't take none of that, or else I'll get cocky.
Oh yeah. Hey, look, I just thank God for you. And that's the God knows truth. So Lord, I thank you right now for Miss Tou Tou. She is a blessing, because the Bible says that the blessing of the Lord makes rich, and He has no sorrow with it. So, I'm glad for your time and for your voice right now. So we're going to go in here. The one thing that I love about your content, you were talking about knowing the voice of God. And so I wanted to ask you if you could elaborate on the voice of God and knowing the distinction between the voice of yourself, the voice of God, the voice of doubt versus fear, and even the voice of faith and confidence. So if you can, elaborate, expound, break it down for us. I might, come in with a few questions, but can you just talk to us about the voice of God?
Yes. So one of the visions that happened during I was speaking about, a lot of people are lost, not because they don't have vision, but because they don't know what the voice of God sounds like. And where that stems from is, I used to have those questions. I used to have the question of, God, what is the difference between your voice, my voice, your thoughts, my thoughts? What is it? I need to know. And one thing that I go by, like no other, my blueprint, motto, statement for myself in my life is ask and it's given, seeking you shall find, knock and the door shall be answered. It's a 3-step process to get what you want. And I really feel like that is the key to manifestation. And what I mean by manifestation is bringing that thing that you want into your life. Because what I believe within my belief system is that we are all gods. And we come from the source, right? And we come from that. And because we come from that, we are that. We command, right? We command the universe to do what we tell it to do. And it's up to us to pull that picture together. I'm huge on having vision. And so a lot of the times it's like, okay, God, what is the difference between my voice and your voice? And you have to ask. I did this experiment for a while where I was like, okay, if I'm a God, then that means I command, right? So I command X, Y, and Z, right? And I was like, okay, it's not happening. But when I started asking, what started happening is when you ask a question, it's asked and it shall be given, right?
Yes.
Older generations like to say, a closed mouth won't get fed.
Yeah, exactly.
So if a closed mouth won't get fed, well, God, I'm hungry. I need to be fed this, but I want to make sure that it's for you. And so I challenge people to really sit with themselves. A lot of societies can't even go to a restaurant by themselves and eat by themselves. Like, I love going to places by myself. I love going to restaurants by myself and eating by myself and looking at the menu by myself. And it's like, we need validation from others. We need validation from others. I mean, we need validation from others. We need, but the only validation that should be sought is, am I in alignment with my purpose? Am I in alignment with what it is that you want me to do, God? And I talk about God so much, and it's not in a way it's not in a traditional way. It's in a way of listening, right? So there's an art to listening. Listening isn't just hearing the voice of God, because the voice of God comes to us through many and multiple forms.
I love it.
Right?
Yes.
And it's like, well, what does that look like? What does the voice of God look like? Because sometimes the voice of God looks like coincidence. Yeah. Sometimes they say coincidence is God's way of remaining mysterious. So it's like, if I'm seeking the voice of God, what does that sound like? Because for a long time, I couldn't discern my thoughts from God's thoughts. And what started happening is because I asked the question, right? God was like, listen for me. You know, they say, it's a still small voice that I wait for, so speak to me, Lord. Yes. You know, by Mary Mary. And I started listening, and I'm like, okay, speak to me. It's a still small voice. Okay, I need to really sit here and listen. And as you begin to observe, it's observation. Listening is observation.
Yes.
Okay? When you observe something, you're watching it, you're listening for it, you're taking notes, you're analyzing, right? It's a science to this. But here's the key part, and here's the key factor. The key factor is it's different for all of us because we all have different gifts. So when you're operating in your gift, God begins speaking to you through your gift and the way that you need to be spoken to. Because the way that God may speak to me in a situation is totally different than how God will communicate with you.
Exactly.
But God, that's why it's important to establish that personal relationship, because a lot of people don't even know who and what God is. And it's the power and it's the force, right? And it's like, well, who is God? What is God? Yeah. What is this thing? And it's like, it's almost like being able to read energy, right? I know the difference between my thought and God's thought because there is a urgency that comes with God's voice. There's an urgency of, oh my gosh, I need to write that down or else I'm going to lose it. There's an urgency of, oh my gosh, oh my goodness, okay, I hear you. There's certain coincidences, quote unquote, that happen. Things that line up that are like, wait a minute. How did this? Okay, God, I see you.
Yeah,
I hear you. And a lot of the times, it's not about where we mess up. This is where we mess up. Is that we start telling other people. And when we tell other people, we're not developing that personal relationship with God to have the clarity in the first place. So a lot of the things of what I do is I help people hear the voice of God. And it'll be in different terms of, you know, whether it's universal laws. I teach the universal laws to people. So once I start teaching the universal laws to people, what happens is they shift into a different relationship with the world around them. And they shift into a different reality. And a lot of the times it's like, oh my gosh, I had one client that was like, oh my gosh, I feel so lost. I feel like, and I'm like, no, this is a good thing. You feel lost because you've shifted into a different reality. You shifted into hearing the voice. I like to say, I like to take the earwax out of people's ears so God can speak clear.
Exactly.
And it's because people feel lost. And I remember going through these phases. But because I went through it, you can't guide anybody through what you ain't been through.
Exactly.
So I'm like going through these things of like listening to God's voice, hearing certain things. And I'm like, yo, I know this is, because when God's voice comes through, it's too powerful. You know it's not you. You know it's not you at all. Yeah. Right? And so because you know it's not you, you're like, okay, I know this ain't me. So who is it? Okay, that's you. You know, and it does feel like a thought. Like God's voice does feel like a thought sometimes. but it's so profound that it's like I kept asking God. I was like, God, what is this? Like, God, talk to me. And God revealed to me, we are one people. Living through different simulations, we define and choose to be our own truth while living in a co-created environment within multidimensional realities.
Wow.
And I was like, what? But see, when God sends that energy, this is what God does. Our head is like an antenna, right?
Yeah.
So when we ask a question, God is like, and we have to interpret the message through our words, our experience, and our interpretation.
Wow. Oh, let me stop you right there.
Yeah.
Oh my God. A question just came to me right now. How important is clarity?
Ooh! You have to have clarity because it's the only way to discern.
Okay.
Clarity is the catapult to all execution and effective action. Because when you have clarity, you have alignment. And we have to begin to declutter everything, right? You can't discern the voice of God if you don't have clarity, right? If I don't have clarity of what my voice sounds like, then when God speaks, I'm not going to understand the difference between God talking and me talking. And sometimes, like, I sit there, let me tell you how bold I am. I be getting in arguments with God when God's voice comes. Because for a long time, and sometimes you have to observe yourself and betray the voice of God for a minute to see who that was.
Yeah, exactly.
Is this my thought or is this your thought? Because I remember my last day in China, right? Something told me, hey, take your money out the bank. And I'm literally talking to God. And I'm like, God, what I'm doing that for? That don't even sound right. And it was like, just do it. The voice and I were arguing, right? And for so long, I was like, yo, I would hear people talk about this voice, right? Yeah. And I'm like, the voice. God told you this. What you mean, the voice? And the voice is that voice of clarity, and it comes down like power, like that lightning that you played. That thunder that you played in the beginning of it. And it's like when it comes down, it comes down. And it's like either you listen to that voice or, you know what you get stuck with? You get stuck with saying, I knew I should have. When you say, I knew I should have, that knowing was God's voice that you rejected because you thought your thought and your voice was superior than the voice that came to you.
Exactly. And we say that a lot. Oh, I knew I should have did this. Oh, I knew it. You know?
Yep.
And we say that a lot. So it's almost like you're saying, you know, unless we have clarity, we will not be able to, you know, be in line with God or have proper alignment when it comes to the things of God without clarity.
And here's the thing, Brother Leon. Sometimes we don't need clarity to still hear it.
Yeah.
Because when it's an emergency or it's a situation where God pulls you out and you don't belong there, sometimes it'll be other people. This is something I learned. If you don't do it, the message will get sent to someone around you and then they'll pull you out.
Yeah.
So if God really wants you to get that message, but God knows his child, God knows his vessel, God knows, okay, they're not listening. Let me send somebody who does listen.
Yeah, exactly.
To them, because guess what? They might not be listening to me, but I know my servant, I'm going to send my servant to go to them. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my servant and they'll listen to my servant because I can't get through to them at the moment.
Exactly, yes.
So you ever find yourself in situations where you're like, oh my God, how did you know that?
Yeah.
That's how you know God done sent somebody to you.
Yeah, exactly. It's, you know, and it comes through, like you said earlier, you got to be aware. You got to learn how to listen. And so far, you know, people, if it ain't Charleston Heston, Moses, if it ain't that, if it ain't, you know, 10 Commandments and Cecil B. DeMille, it's almost like, ooh, that ain't the voice of God. I'm like, nah, God will talk to you through everyday things. And this is the reason why Jesus used parables, because he used parables as God's way of talking to his people, because he used everyday things. I mean, we heard the audible voice come out of heaven. This is my beloved son in whom I'm well pleased. This is my beloved son, hear ye him. But also talking to people in everyday scenarios and stories, and people coming to each other. So I say, all right, God, however you want to speak, whether it's through a person, whether it's through me seeing something, whether it's even a movie.
Yep.
You know, and I'm like, it's so many things. I'm like, man, I watched this movie the other day it was a series on Netflix called Midnight Mass. And it was crazy because this man thought that this monster was an angel. And the crazy thing about it is that it attacked him, it killed him, and it killed his whole family. But the thing is that he thought that it could bring life. And God was speaking to me. He was saying so many times people get deceived thinking that something that compromises you can keep you. But the one thing that I've learned is that what you compromise to keep, you will lose. He compromised everything about himself and lost his whole family. And I mean, it's just so many times in ways that we miss the voice of God, because the Bible does say, like you said, that it's a still small voice. Mm-hmm. You know, and it says in the Bible, and I'm paraphrasing, that thou shalt hear a voice, behind thee saying, this is the way, walk ye in it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I look at it like, yes, you can hear the voice of God. But, now that we're on that, how do you take and have distinction between the voice of God versus the voice of fear or the voice of the devil, or even the voice of doubt? Because it seems like when it comes to God, it's a still small voice, but then doubt and everything else is like real loud. It's almost like bees to a certain degree.
Yeah. So the main way that I distinguish between the voice of fear doesn't talk to me anymore.
Okay.
Because they know better. The voice of fear comes sometimes, but it knows that I'm not listening. It knows that I'm so entranced with the voice of God that when the voice of fear comes, I shun it.
Okay.
And I figure it out. And the voice of fear, the biggest fear of the voice of fear is you figuring out what that voice sounds like, because then you start telling other people what that voice sounds like so they can avoid it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So, and I'm like the ultimate explainer. So for me, when I hear the voice of fear, I'm breaking it down. I'm figuring out, okay, this is what it feels like, this is what it sounds like, this is what it smells like, this is what it touches like. Okay, well, I'm not listening to that voice, and I rebel against that voice of fear. And I'm like, nah, you are not doing this. And for me, I'm like, if the voice of fear is coming, something great is in my face.
Yeah.
Right? Now, there's a difference between a warning and the voice of fear, right? Because God can be warning you, like, hey, don't make that move or don't do that. That's not fear. That's more of, I got to protect you from this. Don't walk into, it's like walking into a dark room without the light. Like, hey, we don't got no batteries in there. Don't go in there.
Yeah.
And you'll have that. You'll have those gut instincts and that intuition that pops in. In regards to like the voice of God, devil means to devalue, right?
Yeah.
So anything that you devalue is the devil. Okay? Anything that's not at its proper valued level is the devil. Okay? Now, that's like I like to see the devil as more of an energy instead of an entity.
Yeah.
So a lot of people like the horns and blah, blah, blah. Like, to me, that's spook stuff. That's it's character stuff that I think it got passed down to generations, and we just turned it into something that is like not even meant to be anymore. Yeah. So I feel like it's the energy, it's that darker energy of, you always have the opposite forces. You always have the force of good. Where the force of good is, you have the force of bad.
Yeah.
Where the force of righteousness comes in, you have the force of righteousness. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And so there's always those polar opposite things. And it's like those opposite extremes always meet.
Yeah.
Extremes always meet. I mean, we see it in politics, we see it in religion, we see it in different spirituality and practices. We see these extremes meet. The force of good will always meet the force of bad. The force of righteousness will always, meet the force of wickedness, and it will always be that contrast. Why? Because there's always the same varying degrees between the opposite sides. So when you're able to navigate through that, and we really have to be comfortable in being shameless in our experience.
Oh, I like
and
that.
Being able to observe. I'm going to keep going. The word of the day is going to be observe.
Yes.
Because when you're able to observe exactly what's happening, you're able to then take that specific detail, learn it, even if you don't learn the full lesson. I have a friend, and he likes to say that the lesson will be repeated until it's learned.
Exactly.
And when he says that, I'm like, sometimes, his name's Jamal Mitchell, by the way. And when he says that, the first thing that comes to my mind is sometimes we're not meant to learn the entire lesson at that time. We're only ready for what we're ready to hear. And sometimes we're not ready to hear certain details. And so the lesson will repeat itself because guess what? You were so focused on this part of the lesson that you weren't paying attention to another part of the lesson.
Exactly.
So when that lesson repeats itself and it comes back, it's not about, oh, damn, I'm such a failure. I'm so this, I'm so that. No, it's what part of this lesson did I not learn? Okay, I'm seeing this part. This part is a repeat. Okay, all right, I see this. Now, what other part of this lesson that is happening again that I may not have been aware of the first time that's now happening again? And that's why I always encourage people to have counselors and therapists. And I take mental health very seriously. Like a lot of people see me, I'm a mindset coach, but I see a therapist every week. And I do that because you can't see yourself. It's the blessing and the curse of being a servant. It's that you can't see yourself. And sometimes the therapist will ask me questions that I'm like, oh man, I didn't think about that. Like one thing that she asked me, I'll give you an example. It's like she asked me, she was like, when you left for China, were you escaping because of your role that you had to play? You had to be a sister. You had to be a friend. You had to be a cousin. You had to be whoever. And you had a lot of pressure on you. Do you feel like that's why you stayed so long? And I was like, oh, I didn't think about that. And what I realized was that's what made repatriation so difficult for me, was because I had to take on all these roles again 5 years later that I didn't have to have responsibility of. So you want to talk about freedom? I played whatever role I wanted to. I literally got to recreate an entirely different person. But then when I came back, people have certain expectations on you. The beautiful thing about living in that kind of freedom is that you literally realize that you are the creator of your own reality, one, and two, you're the creator of the character that you play. Jim Carrey once said that depression is nothing more but your avatar saying that they're tired of playing that role.
Yeah.
And I ask your audience, what role are you playing that you're tired of playing and you won't put down?
Yeah.
Sometimes that cross is not yours to bear. And society has an interesting way of doing this, of giving each other's cross to bear.
Yes.
And that's not your cross to bear. And though you're watching that person carry it, you can help them carry some of it. You can give them suggestions on how to carry it. But guess what? They must crucify that part. They're not carrying their cross for nothing. God wants them to go through that so they can crucify themselves so God can resurrect them.
Yes.
We cannot do the resurrecting. That's God's job. And when we resurrect, we change our relationship to the world. God so loved the world that he gave his one and only son right, according to the Bible, in one and only Son. What's the rest of it, beyond?
For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth him should not perish but have everlasting life.
There we go. That everlasting life part, right? That's in the resurrection.
Yes.
When you resurrect into the everlasting life. We have to allow people to continuously resurrect. We have to allow people to bear their own cross. Yes, we are there for them. We can show them the light all day, but it's their job to step into it. It's their job. We can only inspire that action. Yeah. And so when we live these different kind of lives, like I am very protective of my energy, for example. I'm very protective of the things that I see. My business partner, he likes to call me, he calls me BB. And it's a thing between us, but it's like, it means bubble baby. Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh my gosh, you really don't know about this? You don't know about this? You don't know about this? And I'm like, no, like, I don't watch the news. Anything that feels like negative, fearful type of energy, I'm not listening to it. Yes. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to smell it. I don't want it to be in my vibration. Yeah. Because I know that if I allow that in, then you're allowing and enabling someone to control you. He who controls your emotions controls your thoughts.
Exactly.
He who controls your thoughts controls your emotions. It's a 3-step process. It's thought, feeling, and action. You think a thought, you get a feeling from that thought, and you're inspired through that to take action. Well, if I can control your thought and I can control your emotion, I can control your action. Exactly. That's why they know the game. And I mean, the powers that be, they know the game. They know how it works. If I keep telling you the same thing over and over again, even if it's not the truth, eventually you're going to believe it because of the powers of the subconscious mind.
Exactly.
And the subconscious mind is the emotional mind. Exactly. Right? And you can reject it with your conscious mind all day. But if I keep putting it in your face, eventually you're going to let up because now the thing that's wrong is now starting to look normal. Now it's starting to, okay, well, he's doing it. He's doing it too. At first he refused it, but now he's doing it too. So that must be the truth if people are conforming to it. That must be the truth if everybody's doing it. That must be the truth. Because why else would other people do that? Why else would other people be following it if it wasn't true? But that's the power of image. That's the power of psychology. That's the power of those things. And so having that clarity, protecting your energy, and being in a space and a place within yourself, and knowing that alone time with God, because God will always tell you the answer. And it might look crazy to other people, but are they resurrecting daily into that everlasting life? Exactly. Or are they stuck in that same world, still bearing that cross and crying? Some people are bearing crosses that they don't even know that they have on their back.
Oh my God. You know what? Oh my God. I'm seeing so much stuff. The first thing that I see is there are a lot of people that don't want to die. And what I mean by that is I'm not talking like, physically. I'm talking about figuratively, symbolically. Because, even in the Bible it says that whosoever shall lose his life shall find it. And then Jesus also said in the book of Revelation that I am he which was dead and I am alive. And I have the keys of death and of hell. Amen. And so when you look at that symbolically, it's like that is the greatest testimony that Jesus ever had. The fact that he was able to resurrect. And he also gave us command when he, ascended to, that the works that I do shall you do and greater because I go to my Father. And so it's almost as if the power is there, but nobody wants to go through the work of crucifixion and then resurrection. Because the work of resurrection means that you're in the dark. And then it also means that you when you rise, it's like, okay, you got to take off the grave clothes. The grave clothes are taken off. The stone is rolled away. And so many people are like, nah, I don't want to go through that. I want the blessing, but I don't want to work. I don't want to go through the stretching and everything that God is going to put me through to get me on the other side. But it's almost like, yo, you got to know that blessing. You know, and so many people, they are content to live in the comfort zone that allows them the space to holler, to get the attention. And then the crazy thing is that they begin to believe that this is God's will for me, to be where I am, when God is saying, no, I have greater.
Mm-hmm.
The works that I do shall you do, and greater. Yes, he lived, but the greater work was the resurrection, the testimony after the resurrection. You know, feed my sheep, feed my lambs. And, you know, the thing is that we as people, we have to be aware of it, because I tell people, when you look at the Bible, look at the symbolism behind it. Look at the illustrations behind it. Look at the principles, the knowledge that is in there. But also you have to look at what is happening in the world, because there's so many people, like you said, because this person does it, this person's doing it, it must be true.
Mm-hmm.
And truth is symbolic with light. And one thing that comes to me that I'm hearing out of the gospel, if the light in you be darkness, how great is that darkness? And so that's the crazy thing that gets me, because it's almost like, even in our community, the lies that were said about us, the labels that were placed on us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, black life doesn't matter. Black men and black women can't get along. I'm like, you know, where do we believe the lie? Because it's almost like now we see it on TV, they killing us, and then we see it on TV now and start to be the norm. Like, really? And some of this stuff, I'm like, I can't do this no more. I'm serious. It seemed like on national news, it was always, we walk in, Black Lives Matter, but somebody always dying.
Mm-hmm.
And for a while, I was like, you know, I advocate and I fight for our people, but for a minute, I was like, I got to turn this off. I got to turn this off, because it started changing me. I started feeling the hate rise up instead of the inspiration rising up. And so I was like, I got to turn this off. I gotta go back and really reevaluate, weed some stuff out, because I started actually making the fight an idol. And then the crazy thing about idols, you know, the power that I was given to it, it wasn't pure. It was dark. It was dark energy. It started to turn into hatred. And I was like, no, I can't flow like that, because the one thing that will happen, it'll be a fire, but it'll be uncontrolled, and it'll eventually burn itself out. But it'll take everything with it. Instead of it being something that can burn consistently, it'll end up spreading and taking a whole lot of stuff with it. So it'll be collateral damage along with it. And I'm like, no, God has brought me too far to just be sloppy and have collateral damage with people's lives. Or even with the voice that he's giving me. I'm like, nah, I can't allow this platform to just be reckless, and then we have a whole lot of collateral damage at it, because God is going to require from me when I stand before him in judgment. So I thank you for everything that you're saying, because it's bearing witness with what is happening out here, but also bearing witness as to why we need to speak and be responsible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I really, something that you said that really hit me was, you talked about like what's in the media.
Yeah.
Right? And what we're being shown. And media is the medium, right?
Yeah.
It's the medium between the actual story and the what we want to portray.
Yeah.
Right? And so when we think about that, and we think about who's saying what about us, and whose mouth is that coming from? Exactly. You know, one thing that I really love about Islam is that it's not just about the source, but it's about where is this information coming from?
Yes.
And who is that person? And what kind of character did that person have? Who was that person's friend? It goes beyond, I don't care if you were a prophet, you know, or not. Who were your friends? Who were you around? What were your characteristics like? Because we need to be able to also evaluate that before we even listen to that mouth open. What qualifies you?
Mm-hmm.
Are you qualified by the people, or are you qualified by God?
Exactly.
Right? Because God is the changer of hearts. We saw it with who was it? Was it Peter? Or it was Paul, the Christian killer?
Yes, Paul.
Yeah. So, like, when we see stories like that, you went from being an entire killer to now you preaching the gospel. And it's stories like that that I feel are the most powerful. Because once again, what I said before, the extremes meet. God is the changer of hearts.
Yes.
Right? And so we are playing with let's say the devil's playground, essentially. And I say that because who's in charge of who's the prince of the air?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, the prince of the air, we all know who that is.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, that's Lucifer, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, the thing is that we gonna blow sand gusts over them. You know why? Because we're already in the kingdom. And all we're doing is we're pulling people in. You see, people think, oh my gosh, we got to create the kingdom. The kingdom has been created, right? As above, below, as in heaven as it is on earth, right? And so it's like, heaven is here. We're not going through all of this chaos for no reason. There's a reason behind all of this. So many generations after generation after generation after generation has said this is the end time, this is the end time, this is the end time. The end time has always been here, right?
Exactly.
And it's always been here, but it's like it's the end time for you, right? It's the end time for you because when that judgment comes to you, are you willing to drop everything that you have to follow that voice that you're not even sure at that moment is God or not? Let me tell you a quick story. When I made the decision to stay here in America, that had to be one of the hardest decisions that I ever made because I lived a life that I could only dream of living abroad. I had my friends. I had everything I ever wanted materialistically. I had the job. I loved my life. I had the body, right? Because I had a personal trainer. I had a chef. I had someone cooking for me, cleaning for me, all these things. I lived a lifestyle that I always wanted. And when I came home, it was just for Chinese New Year because I had vacation and my sister had got pregnant, hid the pregnancy from the family the whole time. And I was like, oh, snap. Well, now I really got to come home because I want to see my niece. I want to meet my niece. I want to spend time with my niece. And what really got me was like, you know, my school was like, okay, look, the borders of China closed, but we're allowed to bring teachers back. So we're going to give you a special visa. Well, before this, and I was like, okay, keep me updated about it, right? And so God was like, you need to make a decision right now what you're going to do. I saw what happened with George Floyd. I saw what happened with Breonna Taylor. Need I mind you, like I was born in Kentucky. And so when I saw Breonna Taylor's death, that hit home for me. I'm essentially like a James Baldwin. Yeah. And you know, when you're abroad and you're watching what's going on at home, it's so difficult to watch because you're like, what in the world's going on? It's a different reality here. It's a different simulation that's going on here. And you see through it and you're like, wait a minute, this doesn't look right. This doesn't sound right. It doesn't feel right. Is this real? And people are looking at you like, don't you see it happening on TV? How much more real can it get? And you're like, how does this happen? Like you're so detached from the result that you don't even know what the cause is, right? And so when I made the decision, I was like, I watched James Baldwin, and when I heard James Baldwin say what he said, and he said, I came back home because I needed to get in that. I had to get in that. I had too much talent, skill, and ability, essentially, to stay on the sidelines. And when I heard him say his reason for coming back, that's when I knew God was talking to me. And I was like, you know what? James Baldwin, I resonate with him so much of like escaping, these different roles, escaping the narrative that others created for me that I didn't create for myself, escaping. I just want to be free. I just want to be me. Not the me that you think I should be, but me. I want to be me.
Yeah.
And it's like, I got to be me in my greatest capacity. And now I'm coming back here, and it's like, now all these things, all these angry black woman, this, title. You have to be this, you have to be that, you got to be this. Even religiously, it makes me sick sometimes of like, you got to be this. This is what righteousness looks like. This is what this looks like. Stop. Be quiet.
Exactly.
Be quiet. Stop. Now, I love you. I really do. But me and God have been in this thing together that I don't need your interpretation of what you think is right.
Exactly.
Because the same qualification of your teacher that you follow, that same qualification, I got that same qualification from God. Because I established a personal relationship. See, you listen to this person who listens to God, and they're your messenger, and that's fine. But I'm listening to God as well, and I'm listening to these messengers as well. But guess what? I am amongst them. I don't have to subscribe to who someone else says. This is my interpretation. Okay, that's fine. That's how you hear God in your life. Yes. And I'm going to listen to how you hear God because I believe we are all vessels. Yes. Used in different ways with different messages. And it's about how can we apply that message? How can we apply that thing to our lives and then carry out that teaching to who needs to hear it in the way that only we can say it? Because there's a unique blueprint that we have, a unique fingerprint that we have, that only when we touch it and we access it, that is granted. I was talking to a friend last night, and him and I were talking about what qualifies people. And I was telling him I always go back to the story of Moses and the Israelites because anybody could have touched that staff. Anybody could have touched that staff. But it wasn't until Moses picked it up and moved it to the left and the right and the oceans divided.
Yes.
Moses had to do that. Aaron, his brother, who was also giving the message, right? Aaron could have picked up the thing and it was a stick. And he could have been abracadabra all day, right? And nothing would have happened. Why? Because that wasn't the fingerprint that God wanted to move that. That wasn't that assignment. And sometimes when I see people get envious and I see people get jealous, you didn't put in the work to have that favor. You didn't listen to God. You didn't put in that work. You didn't put in that time. You don't know what kind of time other people did. People just see other people thinking, oh my gosh, like, even in certain industries, people will see me and be like, well, why is it that she's so, young and she thinks she can teach da-da-da-da-da-da. When I started in this, I was 20. I started teaching the philosophy at 27. I got into the industry at the end of at 28. So, and that's the personal development space. Well, everybody around me, I was talking to Mr. Les Brown, and I was like, look, sir, I don't think I'm qualified for this. And what he told me was, he was like, you are never too young to teach, and you're never too old to learn.
Exactly.
And when he said that, it changed my entire trajectory. It was something that literally, there are certain things that can shift you with one statement. Yes. And I realized I don't need anyone else to qualify me. I have to qualify me.
Yes.
And not only that, but God qualifies me. I wouldn't be in such position if I didn't have that favor. Well, why is it that she gets to rise to the top? Why is it that because I spend time with God. And when I made a decision to stay here, you best believe the favor was getting put on me. Because I decided, God, I don't know what you got me doing, but I'm following you. I'm following you blind in the mud.
Yes.
I don't. And I told God, I was like, look, I trust you. I know that you will not forsake me. I know that. But I'm also telling you, like, I need you to guide me because I can't be, I'm not leaning on my own understanding because my understanding don't have a clue with what you do.
Yeah.
But I know that you're telling me to listen to you. And every time that I didn't listen to you, I said, dang, I should have did this. Because here's the thing. If you don't carry it, God's going to send somebody else to carry it.
Exactly.
Because somebody else is going to listen. Somebody else is going to get the message. Because God is going to use whatever vessel is going to put it out there. Exactly. Will you be the vessel that he uses? And that's only an answer that the individual can answer.
Yeah. Exactly. You hit the nail on the head because it's so many times people wait. And I'm like, yo, God, you know, he is patient with us. But I look at it like this. That's the grace that he's given us. It's patience. But you have to also look at it as that, yo, that grace period runs out. And after a while, God will be like, all right, I love you enough to leave you where you are, and I'm going to get somebody else. You know, and that's always been the case, you know, when it comes to God and when it comes to, you know, him trying to get his work done in the earth and in people's lives. Like you know, I wanted you to do this, but you chose otherwise. So I had to get somebody else who was going to do what I probably wanted you to do. And so now, you know, they're running with it. And everything that you're saying, I'm like, it just resonates on the inside of me because it's like, people just don't know. I'm like, you don't know. You know, the Bible says that one man planteth, another man watereth, but God is the one that gets the increase. When you are sowing in the field, I mean, it's like, y'all don't know the work that's involved. Even in the sacrifice of getting the soil ready, the sacrifice of sowing the seed, the sacrifice in cultivating that ground and keeping, you know, the bugs and all the other little things that could come in and mess it up. Y'all don't see that part. You know, y'all don't see, people see the, you know, the beginning, you know, and even people may even see the end, but a lot of times they don't know what the messy middle is. You know, they don't know. They don't know the frustration like, oh my God, it's worth it. They don't know that. I'm not gonna lie. I've been doing this for like a year, and I'm like, God, I'm 256 episodes deep. And I'm still thinking, I'm like, okay, Lord, something got to break. I'm going to continue to do it because I'm believing. And I ain't going to lie. The thought about giving up, and I ain't going to lie, even the thought of, is this God's will? That came to me because I was like, man, am I God's will? Because I'm not yielding nothing yet. Ain't nothing pop. Ain't nothing go viral. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just say, hey, okay. I'm going to keep on because I believe that God tests us. He will test us in seasons of insignificance. He'll test our character. He'll test whether or not we're going to be faithful. You know, and I'm like, God, really? And
you're doing it for somebody else. Sometimes you're doing it for somebody else.
Yeah.
It's that one person that needed to hear it. Yeah. It's that one person that you needed to speak to. You got through 253, and on your 254, you hit.
Yeah.
And then on top, and then you were just having a candid conversation and asking questions, but it's always the stuff that hits that, you know, like when I said what I said, for example, I was like, people aren't lost because, you know, they don't have vision. People are lost because they don't know what the voice of God sounds like. To me, that was nothing. I wasn't even thinking about what I said. And then when I had I cut the video. And I was like, oh, okay, that sounds great. So when I cut the video, people started liking it. And then I got messages about it. I'm like, whoa, okay, interesting. So it's interesting of what can be insignificant to us.
Yeah.
But it's exactly what people need. And so it becomes significant. So when these things become significant for us, we recognize, you know, like we begin to recognize, okay, that hit. What about that hit people so hard? What about that made people resonate with it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, probably because a lot of people don't even know what the voice of God sounds like.
Exactly.
Oh, because when people hear truth, it is a big thing to be a messenger. It is a huge thing to be a vessel. Right? We're all messengers. But the question is, whose message are you carrying? Are you carrying your own message out of ego? Are you carrying God's message out of being selflessness? What are you carrying? We all have that cross there. We all are bearing something. We're all walking. We're not walking towards the light. The day that we recognize that we are the light, the walk becomes easier, because it's like, yes, I'm human. I'm human enough to still fall down. I'm human enough to still sometimes play with the other side. I'm human enough to still be tempted. But guess what? I know who I work for. I know the message that I'm giving. I have the clarity. I know my purpose. And I'll be damned if anybody takes away this hard work and then I don't put it in because I'm afraid. Look, listen, one of my biggest fears, yes, I fear God. God is my biggest fear is God. My second biggest fear is, after that, it's me laying on my deathbed thinking that I do everything in my power to carry this message, to fulfill everything that I wanted to out of life. Did I do this? And when you're transforming, not only do you have to dead the old conversation that you had with yourself, but a lot of the time, before I made this transition into the reality that I choose to exist in currently, one thing I said to myself was, I was like, am I who I thought I was? That was my number one question. What if I'm not who I thought I was?
Yeah.
What if I'm somebody that I don't even like? I'm so scared of taking this step. Because what if I don't like me? What if I'm not satisfied with me?
Yeah.
But what happened when I said that was, it was like, who cares? You just change yourself again.
Yeah.
But you have to be willing to do that. You have to be willing to get criticized. I have so many brothers that love me and can't stand me at the same time. And they're open and they'll tell me.
Wow.
And I'm okay with that, because God didn't give you the vision. God gave me the vision. And if you can't see it, brother or sister, that's your blindness. But one day you're going to see. And then you're going to see like, dang, I was over here telling her, I'm glad she didn't listen.
Yeah.
Because it looks crazy. That's how you know you're on the right track. When it looks crazy to your brothers and sisters. When it looks crazy, well, why are you even that? It looked like you playing with the this and that. It looked like you being this and that. And it's like, no, I'm being me. I'm being me. And people need to be liberated by what it is that I have. You can still be you and be righteous. You can still be you and tell jokes and laugh and all of those things. You can still be you.
Yes.
Everybody makes this stuff so like spooky and so weird.
Exactly.
Like, that's the one thing about like religion is like, it's this, oh my gosh, we have to be perfect. We have to be this and we have to. No, you don't. You're not perfect. You're not going to be perfect.
Exactly.
And you're perfectly you. That is what you are. So don't be afraid to make. The problem is we judge others so much that when it's time to we judge others so much that when it's time for us to step up to the plate, we judging ourselves.
Yeah.
You know why you judge? Because you judging other people.
Yeah.
But the minute you quit judging, the minute you quit judging other people, you quit judging yourself.
Exactly. Oh, I gotta give you some applause. Because the Bible says, "Judge not, that you be not judged."
Mm-hmm.
And it also says, "Don't judge anything before the time." But, and I think that's the one thing, they give you religion to control you, but they will never give you truth that will free you. And the one question that I've told Christians is this: what is the Christian without the devil and without hell? Because those are nothing but fear mechanisms and control things, tools of control. And so a lot of people, they do a lot of things out of fear of the devil, fear of going to hell versus the love of God.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I've challenged people on that. And then even, getting to a place where you as a Christian embrace your humanity. Because the one thing that I got to be holy, but you're human as well. And the crazy thing about it is that, Christians, they read the Bible, but they forget about the times where they see illustrations of humanity. You see Peter cussing out a girl. You see Peter being afraid and denying Christ. You also see Peter being angry and get ready to chop somebody's head off. But you also see, Jesus restoring Peter. Even Peter getting grieved by Jesus, asking him, Lord, I love you. We see that. But the crazy thing is that we take and we super Christianize, the forefathers of our faith and even the tenets of our faith, and we forget about their humanity. And so the one thing that we have to do as people, whether you call yourself spiritual, whether you call yourself whatever, or Christian or whatever, embrace the fullness of your humanity. And I've been telling people that I could tell you what's right and what's wrong all day long, and that'd just be my opinion. It's about what you give your power to, because what you give your power to will be the thing that will cause manifestation in your life.
Amen.
Yeah, and it doesn't. If you give your power to Christianity, you won't see the manifestation. If you give your power to whatever belief system that you want, you're going to see the manifestation of it.
Absolutely.
That's just how we are created. Because as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he.
Amen.
And I like to say, as a man believes, so shall he see it. Be it unto you. Jesus said it. Be it unto you according to your faith. And I think a lot of times we take and we, diminish ourselves and we make ourselves so small, because it's almost like, wow, it's so profound, but then it's like a small saying. Be it unto you according to your faith. And so I love the fact that what you're saying right now resonates. And people need to hear this, because people are bound by structures and rules instead of just operating and flowing the way God will have them to. Because we don't, yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, we don't know God.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is even if somebody tells you who God is experience. Are you willing to take the experience? Are you willing to take the ride? Because a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to go into this religion because I feel like I'm still wicked in this way. And people make it so, it's just a guide. You know what I mean? Like, Islam is just a guide. It's a way of life. Christianity is a way of life. Buddhism is a way of life. Taoism is a way of life. Sikhism is a way of life. Hinduism is a way of life. What is it doing? It's putting us and reminding us that we are the light.
Yeah.
And all is mine.
Yeah.
All is mine. That's what the Kabbalion says. All is mine. And so how do we take possession of our own mind? How do we, because the Bible is quite parabolic. And because we speak so literal these days, people, when they hear a parable, they don't even understand it.
People take the Bible literally. Like, I go back and forth with my Hebrew Israelite brothers, and I'm like, y'all take that literally. And in certain parts of the Bible, I'm like, dude, there's similarities between our history and what happened in the Bible, but that is not literally what is happening today.
But that goes back to understanding the voice of God.
Exactly.
Not everybody's meant to teach.
Yeah.
And not everybody's meant to, I believe that all teachers are forever students. But not everybody's meant to teach. And so it's about how can I be most effective to my people?
Yeah.
But what we do know is that all the teachers talk.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And whether we agree or not, we still talk.
Yeah.
And our mission is still the same.
Exactly.
Our classroom structure could be totally different.
Mm-hmm.
The way that we speak to our students could be totally different.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be the favorite teacher, okay? No, I'm playing. But, you're going to have teachers that are more loved by others because of the way they deliver it.
Exactly.
Some people need that hard message.
Yeah.
Some people need, I think the greatest speaker on the planet is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Yeah.
I think nobody can touch him. They're the greatest speaker on the planet. Now, does it mean, does that mean that, Bishop T.D. Jakes isn't great? Does it mean that his daughter Sarah Jakes isn't great? Does it mean that Brother Michael Todd isn't great? No. It simply means that I know that Honorable Minister Farrakhan is the greatest.
Exactly.
Now, for these other speakers, preachers, etc., that doesn't take away their value, though. Because guess what? There are people who can't take what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said.
Oh, yeah, you right about that. I seen that on when he was on Donahue. Oh, my God.
But listen, there ain't nothing but truth coming from the mouth,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
But some people aren't ready to hear certain truths yet because they're not there, and that's okay. But you know what that means? That means perhaps the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan isn't for you. But guess what? I love him, but when you hear me talk, I don't sound like him.
Yeah.
We could be saying the same truth, but because of the way God sent me to tell the message, right, I can say the exact same thing that Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said in the way that I say it, and people are clapping. Oh my God, she's fantastic.
Yeah.
We love her. She is so amazing. She's so great. And people are like, looking like, what in the world are you talking about?
Yeah.
And and then you listen to him, and it's like, we don't like him. We don't like this, that. And I'm in my mind, I'm like, yo, I literally just said the exact same thing that he said. It happens all the time. I listen to Brother Kevin Samuels.
Yeah.
A lot of women cannot stand him.
Oh, yeah, you're right about that.
I say the exact same thing he said in the way that I say it, and women are like, oh my gosh, you are so profound.
Yeah.
You are so amazing. You are so this. You are so... And I'm like, dang, y'all just threw him under the bus, but I'm amazing when I say it.
Yeah, yeah, and it's all about the vessel, too, because, like, a lot of people say, well, this person, ooh, they can heal me, they this, they that. I'm like, look, if that were true, then you will be able to receive from that person. You can't receive anything from a person that you may have disdain for, or you may be in strife with.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And that's the thing is like knowing who are you in disdain with? Who is it that you're resisting your message towards? Who are you allowing to speak life into you? You know, people will say, well, they're anti this and anti that and this and that and that. But it's like, but you're still making a judgment. You know, like you're persecuting someone for speaking their truth. The one thing that I say, and I will never criticize anyone, you know, because I remember some people were talking about, you know, our sister Candace Owens, and they're like, well, she's this and she's that and da 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 da. And yeah, she speaks some truths and some of the things I don't agree with. But guess what? I don't have to agree with it. And she don't got to agree with everything I say. But what I love is I respect anyone who has the nerve to carry a message. Even if I don't agree with their message, I respect that you're standing up for something. Exactly. And you're standing for something. There's a reason why you stand where you stand. And there's a reason why people follow you like they do. Because you're speaking for them. You're speaking on behalf of them. You're getting certain messages. Now, whether that message is from God or not, that's between you and God. That don't got nothing to do with me judging your message. But what I know is we're all on the same mission. And the mission is to free people's minds. Yes. And that's the truth of the matter, is who has your mind? Don't allow anybody to be able to control your mind. You make that decision. You decide your path of righteousness. You do that. Don't allow anybody to take away your voice. Don't allow anybody to take away your conscious decisions to be able to transform and change yourself and be and live a free, liberating life.
I like that. Let me give you some applause. I'm telling you, you preaching.
All praise be to God.
You preaching today. I'm not gonna lie, but hey, I want to change it up. So when did you start building your platform? Like, how did that come about, and how did you come up with the name Snatch Minds?
Oh, that's such a good. Nobody ever asked me that question before. So this is very interesting how this happened. This all started back in 2020, and I came back home. I chilled for like a year, 9 months, and I was like, you know what? That's when I made the decision that I wasn't going back. So I would like to say in 2021, the beginning of 2021 was when I solidified. I had like my podcast was called In Trance You and all that stuff and all those things. Well, in the process, I was speaking to one of my friends, and I had made this video, and I was like, everybody want to sit there and talk about snatching their waistline. They need to be snatching their mind.
I like that.
And one of my friends messaged me and was like, yo, what you just said was fire. And I was like, about what? She was like, snatching minds, like girdle, snatch, waistbands, whatever it was that you just said. And I was like, she was like, you really need to make that into something, like seriously. And so I was telling her, I've been studying, mindset and personal development, and I've been, really studying and hitting hard in it. I know this is going to be what I do for the rest of my life. She's like, whatever that was, rock with it, stick with it, do whatever you need to do with it. Well, that friend actually, I was like, yeah, and I want you on my show as soon as my 6 months is over, so I know exactly what it is. Because she was her and I live very opposite lives. I'm kind of over in this field, and she was in the sex industry. And, but I never judged her for it. And that was one thing that she always loved about me. She was like, we lead totally different lives, and I've never felt judged by you. And I was like, girl, we all have different experiences and how we express those experiences. And I was like, but I'm going to need you. I need your voice. I need you later on. So I was like, I want to be able to do this. Anyway, she ends up having a fentanyl overdose, doing some drugs, and she ended up dying. And so when it comes to Snatch Minds, at first it was Snatching Minds, and then I have a business consultant called Sabrina Kane. Shout out Sabrina, work mom. But she was like, no, we're going to call it Snatch Minds. And then I already had the tagline Snatching Minds, like girdle, snatch, waistline, and I realized there was an issue with the women. I didn't want to do women. So when I first came in the industry and motivational speaking and all, I actually started off in the realm of international, because I was like, well, I'm an international traveler, all these other things. And what I noticed was, it was let's join and be the world. And while that message is great, we got to take care of home before we can take care of the outside.
Yeah.
And so I was like, no, I don't want to be on these global stages. I want to be on this domestic stage, because my people need to hear my voice. Yeah. Not other people's people. My people deserve my voice. I didn't come back here and stay here for other people. I stayed here for my people. And so I was like, I need to get in the community. I need to get into that. So Snatch Minds was what came, and I was like, okay, I'm snatching mines like girdle, snatch, waistline. And what does it mean to snatch? It means like, you know, when you're snatching, when you're doing a, you know, the lifts, the Olympic lifts. What are you doing? You're doing it in one full motion and you're snatching, right? And so it's like, this is something that's quick. It's something that you know, we snatch in your mind because we are in such a trivial time right now that it has to be done quickly and effectively and swiftly.
Yeah, it's like fluid.
Mm-hmm. So that's where Snatching Minds came from. And yeah, it was just, I just happened to say it. My friend was like, you really should consider doing something with that and like really making it official. I don't care like if it's a t-shirt or something, but that stuck out. So I was like, all right, you know, and then it was made. I asked my friend to make a brand for it, and it sat. Snatch Minds sat for a good year. I came out with In Trance You first. And that's where I was interviewing people as well. And I was like, I got exhausted of interviewing and doing all that because what I realized was I have to be on the other side of the couch, not on the interviewer side, because I the message that I have is I need to be able to go on other platforms as well. So I made the full switch this year. Is when I really decided, okay, Snatch Mine, now we're going full throttle. So this year, January 1 was when I really, you know, went in and thank God for Belize. Shout out to my girl Belize, because Belize was like, yo, Khadijah. She was like, your message is so amazing. Like, you need to be on more platforms. And I'm like, Belize, I'm all right. Like, I'm not all that. I'm like, Belize, why you just hyping me, girl? She's like, no, I'm serious. She was like, we're going to talk about, so what she did was, she was like, we're going to talk about Black love. I know you're passionate about that. You da-da-da-da. And so what she did was she got me comfortable getting on to like IG Lives and people asking questions and all this stuff. And I just kept at it. And I was like, you know what? If she got the platform she has and what she's doing and somebody sees me, I'm going to listen.
Yeah. Oh yeah. She is a blessing and a gem. Let me give you some applause, both of you. Seriously.
Shout out to Belize.
Yes, I'm not gonna lie, because she is like a lifesaver. I'm not gonna lie. If a life preserver was a person, it'd be her. I'm telling you, because she will keep you afloat when you are in treacherous waters. And that's the God knows truth. So I thank God. I thank God for Belize and everything. And I thank God that you guys connected, because I ain't gonna lie. I talked to her. I was like, "Yo, I want to get Miss Tou Tou on my show." And she hooked it up for me, and I thank God, because
you know, she mentioned your stuff. And shout out to Will. Shout out to William. William is the one who actually connected Belize and I, because I had William on my podcast, and William is he helps people get out of their 9 to 5 and get clarity with their message to be able to move on, and really engages in helping entrepreneurs make that first step. What I love about Will is like, Will was like, yo, I got a girl for you, because I was like, I'm looking for interviews, and I know you know powerful people, so tell me who it is. You know, that his name is William Winfield, by the way, just to say, he calls himself Will is Blessed on Instagram. But it's like, he was like, I got this girl for you. I know y'all are going to click. Yes, call her. And I was like, Belize. Okay. So it actually took us a while, Belize and I, to actually talk the first time, because she had a bunch of other stuff happening. When we did our pre-interview, it was like heaven sent. And it was like, boom, click. We just clicked. Everything was good. Everything made sense. And I was like, oh, my gosh. This is my girl. For life.
Oh, yeah. So, hey, I thank God for divine connection. I'm not going to lie. Thank you, Lord.
Yeah. Thank God for you. Okay.
Divine
Thank
connection.
God for you, too. Thank God for you, too.
Yes.
Because we had some conversations in the background, and I was heavy on taking the notes.
Oh, yeah.
And My God.
Yeah, because you pull it out. I'm like, where'd that come from? Because matter of fact, one of the things I said, I was like, oh yeah, we definitely got to do a podcast episode on that.
Listen,
Yeah.
like the way that, you know, like you express yourself and you do your thing, like it's so beautiful. And I really, having these kind of conversations can be heavy for some people, or some people don't want to hear it and all these different things. But I really do think that the world is ready to hear it. And I feel like the world wants to hear it. I feel it's the water that they thirst for, that they know not that they thirst for. Yeah. They just know that they're dehydrated, but they don't know what water tastes like. They don't know what water looks like. Yeah. And so when we deliver these messages, there's something that hits them. There's something that they resonate with. And whether they agree with it or they don't, it's the opening of their mind. It's the transit state that they get put in of just listening to our voices and hearing such a message. And I really think we need now more than ever, you know, women's voices are so important because people are looking to be comforted. Yes. And men are amazing. Men are phenomenal. I love our brothers. Look, listen, I would not be who I am without the black man. I want to first and foremost say that I would not be who I am without these guys. Like, I would not be who I am without the black man. It is when you look at me, you're looking at a multiplicity of black men that God sent in my life to raise me.
Let me give you some applause. Because the crazy thing about it, it's almost like when you hear stuff like that coming from a black woman, it's like taboo. Because we've always been hearing the opposite. You know what I mean? And even, you know, down to the, all these niggas ain't shit. I'm like, really? Oh my God. And just to hear what you just said and how it just, you know, uplift black men, giving props to black men, I'm like, man, we need more of that. If you want to see change, we need that.
I can go on and on. I love the black man. The black man has, it's no other man that's really done it. Even I would even say the melanated man, you know, as well. You know, I have a Latino brother that really loves on me as well, and it's the brothers in general. Like, and I talk about my brothers, and I talk about how hard my brothers are on me too. Like, brothers be going hard on me, but it's because that's how they know how to love. You know, obedience is one of the highest forms of love. Discipline is a high form of love as well. And correction is a high form of love. Yeah. And these men that came into my life, I thank God for being my father. Why do I thank God for being my father? Because God sent these amazing vessels, these amazing men in my life. We get in arguments, you know, we get in our little fights. I disagree with some of the things that they say. But then I learned that what they're saying is true, and they say these things to protect me, not to hurt me. Yeah. And I know the difference, and I'm able to be blessed enough to be able to identify, you know, and have the discernment, because I still cultivate with God at the same time. So a lot of the times what will happen is I manifest my black men's, you know, dreams and their realizations that they want. And so because I don't know what happens, but it just gets implanted in me and I manifest it. And they're like, how in the world did you get that? You know, and I'm like, I don't know, but I remember us talking about it. And, well, here it is. You know, and they're like, oh my gosh. And it just, we need our men. We need our men. Yes. Sisters. I'm speaking to the sisters right now. We need our brothers. We need them. They want to be loved. They want to be cared for. They want to be spoken to in a specific type of way. And we have to be more gentle with them, even if what they're saying is off the wall. You know, we will never match that masculine energy of power, of strength, of all of that stuff, because we're out of our nature when we do that. Like, you know, like, love on our brothers more. Hug them more. Tell them how amazing they are. Like, yo, y'all are so amazing. Y'all are so dope. And seeing that how the world wars itself against you, the world literally wars itself against you to the point where they've been taught to hate you but love me. Yeah. But you can't love me without loving him. Yeah. He runs me. And I don't care when nobody says, like, okay, behind every great man is a great woman. Absolutely. But behind every great woman, in front of every great woman, is a powerful, strong black man leading her and guiding her.
Yeah.
And I'm lost without a man's direction. I'm like a chicken with his head cut off. Because I have all this talent, all this skill, all this ability, but it's the black man that gives my gift purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I'm his helper. So the better, and I said this on the show before, is the better that I get in my career and what it is that I have going on, the better help I am to my black man.
Yeah.
And I primarily, to be, if I'm being 100% honest with you, my business is literally working. All I work with is black men. But when I'm speaking to audiences, I'm speaking to black women primarily.
Yeah. So
it's like I work for the black men, but I'm giving my talks and having fun with the black women.
Wow.
But the black men are the ones who keep paying my bills.
Yeah.
You know, so I've learned how to speak to them in a specific way. I've learned how to, even when I don't agree with certain things they do and all these other things, you got to get comfortable with respecting our men. And then I genuinely feel that our men love us, but they're trying so hard to learn how to love us. But because we reject ourselves sometimes, we're not allowing them to love us. We're not allowing him to get the message through of he wants to protect. His first mission is to protect and serve. His first mission is, how can I protect her? How can I love her more? How can I be there for her more? How can I make sure that nobody else can touch her?
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of the brothers, they be on me so hard because they're like, Khadijah, do you not know what this could do? Do you not know? And they go so hard on me because they want me to be my best. And I recognize that, but I also have to tell them, like, brother, like, yo, I'm so flowers. Talk to me nicely, you know? And they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, sis. Like, you know, and they'll apologize because they're like, my partner, he says, he's like, you know, men are like rocks, women are like flowers.
Yeah.
And I can't be throwing rocks at you knowing you're a beautiful flower. So,
exactly.
you know, you taught me a lot. And my brothers will tell me that, like, you taught me a lot about women. You taught me a lot about how to see things. You taught me a lot about all these things. And I'm like, oh, wow, I'm glad that's the exchange. Because sometimes I don't see the value in what I do for the brothers. You know, I just see what it is that they do for me and how they tell me to move and make certain business moves and create business practices. And, hey, I think this would be a good idea if you move this way. They tell me what to do. And the thing is, I do it. And when I do it and I listen, people are like, yo, you are a beast. You're fire. You're this. You're just seeing my brother. Like, you're seeing the guidance of the God in him working in the God in me.
Yeah. Exactly. I gotta give you some applause on that. I'm serious. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, she's an author, a speaker, and everything. So I was like, okay, so you have any books, blogs, and things like that?
Yeah, so I actually wrote a book called My Thoughts is Dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And that book was based on, personal experience, but I like to say it's a book of a stream of consciousness.
Okay.
And I would tell men, if you ever want to understand the complexities of a woman's emotions, that it's a great book to read.
Okay.
And you go through the complexities of, you know, what love and healing looks like, you know? And I remember going through this phase of, like, I was healing, I was still in love, and the love of my life, you know, there were some circumstances that essentially happened, and decisions had to be made. And it seems like a lot of the decisions that I end up making in my life is like, do I stay or do I go? Do I allow this person to stay or do I allow them to go? And I'm so big on letting go and releasing, because I believe that, you know, when you release it, like, I could have been married right now. I want a husband, you know? So it's like, but I could have been married. I've had multiple men, you know, ask for me to marry them. And the thing is, when you know as a queen what kind of help you are, you know whether you can help the brother or not with his mission in life.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
so it's like, if you don't know what your purpose is, brother, I can't help you with nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, or if you're still guessing it, I don't want to be there during that process of you guessing it. You have to be in your, not completely in your mission, but like even beginning in your mission.
Yeah.
Right? Beginning to know and have clarity of what it is that you're going to do. Right? And that way I'll be able to be like, okay, what is it that you have in your field? Okay. Let me pick these, let me go take it to the kitchen, let me cook it up, let me do this and that. So really that book is about, how I have a poem called Seat at the Table, and people love this one. It's called Reserved Seats sometimes. And it's basically like, what kind of food are you bringing to the table?
Yeah.
I know you see me sitting here, but what is it that you bring to the table? Did you consider that I eat halal meat? Did you consider that I like this and that? Did you consider all these things? My daddy told me, not to do X, Y, and Z. So are you the type of man that you would want your daughter to bring home?
Wow, that's a lot to think about.
That's who I want to date. That's who I want to be with. Yeah. I want to be with your version of what you want your daughter to date.
Yeah.
That's who I want. Would you be satisfied with you if our daughter brought you home? And when I ask men that question, they're like, wow, that's deep.
Yeah, that is deep.
Are you, because I want that version of you. Because I know that I'm more likely I'm probably going to have sons because I want daughters. You know how that works. But it's like, when I have my daughter, when I have my son, I want them to be able to look at their daddy and be like, yo, I want to be like him. And I want my sons and my daughters to look at me and be like, yo, mom is amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, she really be out here doing this and doing that and doing that. And it's like, because my plan is I'm retiring at 35.
Okay.
So I'm like, I'll put in this work for these next 5 years, build. And after that, I'm retiring. I'm be still doing all these other things, but it's like I'm be working for my king and building the kingdom. Yeah. It's forever work, but it's like I want to work in that one kingdom. I know that whoever I'm with, we have multiple businesses together. We have multiple, things together, and essentially, I'm modern day Queen Nefertiti. So it's like what we doing, what we putting in the work, what are we preaching, what are we saying? Our messages cannot contradict nor compete with one another. Exactly. It has to be solidified. It has to be the same. And a lot of the times, like the brothers are like, the sis, like you talking, and it's like I know that. I used to hearing the Muslim woman speaking her mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless she's unless she's a minister or she's qualified by the religion to speak on certain things. And sure, I'm okay with knowing there are going to be certain things that people don't like that I say. There's going to be certain things that I say that, it's like, see, that's why we make the women be quiet. But it's okay because guess what? We all make mistakes. The brothers make mistakes when they speak as well. We all are making mistakes. Yeah. But I'm okay, and I'm so comfortable in my mistakes. And I'm so comfortable with the voice of God. I'm so comfortable learning. I'm so comfortable being the student. I'm comfortable being the teacher as well, and being able to be the teacher that says that they mess up. Yeah. So when it comes to My Thoughts Are Dangerous, you're going to hear a lot about it's really me cultivating that relationship with God, questioning the world around us, and really doing that. When it comes to motivational speaking, I really work on, creating the player. So, in the school of thought that, our business partner and I are creating, it's about mastering your gift. It's about writing your story, choosing your future, and creating your player. And we believe that life is a video game. Yeah. And it's all about how you play it. when you face certain bosses, right? The bosses represent the different challenges in life.
Yeah.
When you face different challenges and bosses in life, you have to navigate through different tools and strategies in order to do that. What you used to do isn't going to work anymore. So what are you willing to do to level up? You are the game genie. And what does that mean? You are the cheat code. You get to determine, what kind of moves you make and decide, how is that move that you're making in alignment with what you wrote your story to be and what you choose your future to be. So we got programs on programs on programs coming up. Wow. And I'm really excited about this year because it's going to be a very, very, it's the come out year. Last year it was about tinkering and playing around and seeing how to do certain things. And, 2022 is really about, okay, it's execution, it's taking action, it's building, it's, studying, it's becoming clear on the message, it's aligning with the message, it's walking in it, it's talking in it. It's not just learning it, but it's being it.
Oh my God, let me give you some thunder on that one. You said being it. You said being it, being the message. I love that. So hey, how can people follow you on social media as well as get a hold of you for counseling and coaching?
Yeah, okay, so I have a website called zestminds.com, so it's SNATCHED minds, MINDS.com, and subscribe to, the channel, as well as you can email me on the website. If you go to the contact list, the easiest way to get to me, though, is going to be on IG. I do check the messages on there, and so you can follow me at Khadijah Tou Tou, which is KhadijahToutou. Same thing for Twitter, same thing for Facebook, and same thing for YouTube, same thing for TikTok, same thing for all the social media. It's all Khadijah Tou Tou.
Wow. Miss Khadijah, I just want to say thank you for coming on here today. You have definitely opened up our eyes, and one thing that I will say is that I am so glad for the time that God has put you on this planet. And that's the God knows truth, because you are reaching generations. And that's the one thing that I see, because you're touching generation after generation after generation, because what you're doing will impact the lives of family trees and structures and generations. And so I appreciate who you are, the work that you do, and what God has called you, for in this time, because I just, see everything with you just transcending and everything like that. So, hey, I'm looking for books, TV, all of that. I'm serious, because we need you. I'm serious. We need you.
Oh, praises be to God. We need you too, brother. So please keep doing what you're doing as well, and ask such thought-provoking questions, and having the platform that you have and the messages that you have as well. And I'm so honored. I'm over here tearing up. I'm thank God this is on video. But even what you say, it makes those tough times, those times of doubt, those times when, people are in your face even yelling at you, and you got to check them. And, it being in such positions, especially as a woman, can sometimes be difficult. But I continue, and I always will praise God and continue to give those claps and those thunderstorms and those, the praises that people give me back to God, because I wouldn't be here without God. And I know that it's just vessel to vessel. You know what I mean? It's vessel to vessel. And the more vessels that we can have, the better that pulling people into the heavens that we are bringing down, and that we've been assigned to bring down, and whether your messenger is Jesus that you follow, or your messenger is Prophet Muhammad, or in our case, I like to say Prophet Jesus, peace be upon him, and or if it's Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him, or if it's, Prophet Mahatma Gandhi, whoever it is for you, I pray that you are in the light and you recognize that you are the light, and just knowing that you are the hands and feet of God. And I just want to leave the audience with this. We talked a lot about the God's voice. The Kabbalion, I leave with this Kabbalion that says, the lips of wisdom are sealed, except to those who have the ear of understanding.
Yeah, I like that.
Except to the ear of understanding. So the ear of understanding is where the voice of God will show through.
I like that. Let me give you some applause. But hey, I just want to say thank you for coming on, and we definitely got to do something again, because God knows that you have a plethora of knowledge, and I definitely want to talk to you when it comes to Black love and things of that nature, because we have to have that conversation, because we need to heal. We need to heal individually. We need to heal collectively as a people, because, you know, my thing is that in order for the Black family, you know, to rise, we got to heal. You know, it starts with us. So I definitely want to have you back on so we can definitely talk about Black love, Black relationships, what the dating pool is like right now. We got to do all of that.
Hey, I'd be honored. All praise be to God. I really am honored. And once again, I want to say thank you so much for creating this platform, having this platform, and being comfortable and enough to even allow me to speak. So I'm honored, and I feel so blessed and just amazing being here. And you're an amazing host, by the way.
Oh, hey, thank you, Miss Khadijah. I so appreciate you. Let me give you some applause.
Thank you.
But hey, you take and have yourself a blessed day. I thank you for the time, because God knows, man, we've been talking for almost an hour and a half.
Hey, look, you said 2 hours.
I know. They could go anywhere between 45 minutes, 2 hours, 2 hours and a half. I'm like, wow. Oh, my God. I know what's going to happen when we start talking about relationships. That bad boy going to be 2 parts.
Look, it's going to have to be. It's going to happen. It's going to be a beautiful conversation.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be that. But, hey, I just want to say thank you for coming on, and I so appreciate you, and I want you to be blessed.
You too. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. You have yourself a blessed day. Thank you.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye. All right, guys. That was Miss Khadijah Tou Tou. And the one thing that I want you guys to understand and know is that every voice has significance. And I want you to understand and know is that when you walk in truth, when you walk in the truth that you receive, that truth will free you. And that's the God knows truth, because the Bible says that you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. So, hey, if you need some coaching, if you need some counseling, Miss Khadijah is there for you. Follow her on Instagram, because I'm going to tell you right now, she is doing phenomenal things on Instagram. Her videos are popping, and that's the God knows truth. So, hey, guys, I love you. This interview was definitely needed, because we need to hear about the voice of God, but we also need to hear about ourselves, how we view ourselves, and the fact that she loves Black men. We definitely need to have another conversation, and that is coming from a Black woman who is saying this. So I can't wait to have her on. I want you guys to be blessed. It was definitely worth it today.
Walk in the truth that makes you free every day. Follow Brother Leon on all social media outlets.